Hey everybody, welcome. I am Haley Gray and I'm the founder of the Women's Entrepreneur Network. And I'm excited to have a friend of mine here. This is Oguer Avila, and he is one of the best copywriters I know. And he is killer with product-based online e-commerce websites and email deliverability and automations and all of the things that go into email marketing when it comes to those types of businesses and helping them really grow and scale. And I want to say a huge welcome, Oguer. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for that amazing introduction. I'm gonna need to write it down because that's a really, really nice introduction. But yeah, I've been working on this space for a while now. It's been over 5 years now. I can't believe how fast time flies. And I've been specializing in email marketing for e-commerce businesses, which is, I know, something that you sometimes work with. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'd love to have this conversation. How can we get it started?
Yeah, so I feel like there's a ton of overdone and underdone marketing when it comes to e-commerce businesses in particular. We're just going to talk about e-commerce today. We're not going to talk about coaching or other types of businesses because marketing for different types of businesses can be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of the stuff that you do when you first come into an e-commerce business to kind of assess the needs and figure out maybe like where the gaps are in their email marketing, their systems, their processes, their infrastructure, and like what's missing and what's there, or where they
Yeah.
are and where they need to go.
Yeah, it's fantastic that you mentioned this because this is actually my hook or my freebie that I offer to new clients is I offer a free email marketing audit. And in that, we will go into their email marketing platform, which I am a Klaviyo partner. So usually I get Klaviyo clients. And we'll go into their Shopify. And a few of the things that we check are, of course, deliverability, because I do get a lot of clients who it's their first time doing email marketing. And like most entrepreneurs, and you and I being business owners are too familiar to this, we wear lots of hats. And so it's just normal for us entrepreneurs when we identify a new need for our business to start doing it ourselves, right? But definitely, email
Right.
marketing is one of those things where you do need someone who really specializes in it and knows how the industry is moving and what we need to watch out for. Because some of the mistakes that I see a lot of people do is they'll just acquire a list and start sending to the totality of that list. So they'll email everyone on that list. And then we have to kind of distinguish between valuable emails and emails that might, from our business owner perspective, be something that we want to communicate to people, but then people might not be as receptive to it. And so
Right.
the wrong mix of all these things can hurt your deliverability, which basically, for people who might not know what that is if you are young enough to remember when Gmail was like a new thing, their main hook was how good their spam filters were, right? And so before that, you were maybe a Hotmail or AOL or whatever other provider you used, and a lot of people started switching to Gmail because it was like, oh, you never get any spam.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, Google invented this concept of them kind of screening what emails were before they reached your inbox. And so they automatically send them to spam. So that's basically what your deliverability is. You want to keep a certain score that is calculated between your open rates and your click rates and your bounce and spam complaints and all of that. And so basically, email providers, through your deliverability score, determine if you're actually engaging your audience or not. And so you want to have a healthy mix of segmentation and good content in order to avoid those numbers just going wonk, especially because usually you'll have your email marketing tied to your domain. And so you really don't want to burn out your domain if you're doing that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about burning out your domain. What does that mean?
So basically, what that means is your score has been a little bit bad, and so email providers have determined that you are probably spam. So the dangerous thing about this is you might start automatically landing in people's spam folders. And that, of course, reduces your visibility greatly, and it will hurt your revenue. Because I think what a lot of people don't realize, and me included, when I started in the space, I started thinking like, are people really like marketing through email? Like, is this really still a
Yeah.
thing? Especially me being a millennial. I think I was like, but I don't think I've ever like paid attention to the marketing I get on my email. And it's a mistake we might all make of assuming that my digital habits reflect the totality of the population's digital habits. Uh, but we usually make this mistake of thinking that it's not going to impact revenue directly. But what ends up happening with email marketing is that email marketing is your main and probably most powerful tool to keep people from exiting your sales funnel prematurely, right? And so a perfect example I can give you of this is your abandoned cart emails. So someone adds to their cart and then they're like, I don't know, this might be too expensive. It might not be the right
Mhm.
time. I'll buy it tomorrow. And then they'll get this email in like an hour or 2 hours saying, hey, you left something in your cart. And so we plan these emails to be triggered by events, which of course, if it's triggered by
Right.
it's a hotter lead than not. Um, and then
Right.
also to have like the right wording and all to kind of convince
Hmm.
these people to shop. And so that's how you keep pulling people into your sales funnel, right? Like they visit your website and then they leave. Well, they get a browse abandonment email. They already purchased but might not know about your other products. Then you have a cross-sell automation. And so because of this, email marketing is directly tied or can be directly tied to your revenue, especially in the e-commerce space. So what can happen if you have bad deliverability is it can impact even your revenue. So of course, we don't want a catastrophe like that. You can recover from a burnt out account, but it's usually much easier to just keep it healthy from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's important to note that, you know, once your domain starts to get blacklisted, that can be an issue kind of like forever. So let's talk about the elephant in the room because you kind of said it up front, but I want to come back and hammer on it a little bit. People acquire a list.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me what that means.
I instantly know what you mean by that, look, because we've had this conversation privately between ourselves.
More than once. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, the healthy way to acquire a list, and I know it's slower, and I know like people want to see results immediately. And as a
Right.
business owner myself, I get it. Like, especially when you're starting out, you just
Mhm.
want to be there.
Right.
And so what a lot of people end up doing is buying lists. And there are, to this day, multiple places where you can do that, multiple platforms and whatnot. The problem with this is it becomes really hard to maintain that engagement and deliverability because these might be people who are not really interested in you or your business, right? And so what's the healthy way to do it is driving traffic to your website and then you capture people on your website with a pop-up. So nowadays, whatever email, sorry, not email, whatever e-commerce website you visit, you'll see a pop-up, right? And they give you a discount or there's like a prices carousel or like there's some hook to get you to give them your email. And that's the healthy way to do it because and it's really simple. Just think about it. If I am going into a website and I care enough about the brand or the product to give them my contact information, that means
Right.
I'm a very hot lead, or at least hotter than other types of leads.
Right.
And so if you keep building a list like this, the engagement is going to carry your marketing and your business through a couple of years, to be honest. And so, in my experience, because aside from having my own business that does this, I've worked for multiple international agencies that do this, and I've been a client manager, and so I'm directly in contact with the clients and their lists and how they acquired them. And what I constantly see is people who bought their lists will at some point struggle. Like you might get a little traction out of a bot list at first, and then it's just gonna like drop, like just suddenly and without warning. And then people start struggling with their deliverability because the deliverability works by percentages, right? So if you have, I don't know, let's say you bought a 10,000 people list. And then a lot of them see your emails for the first time and maybe they're curious and they open it, right? And so you get that big percentage of opens, but then most of them immediately are like, what's this? Like, I didn't sign up for it or I don't care for it. And then
Right.
it's a huge drop. And percentage wise, it looks huge. Always when you take a look at it from a percentage standpoint, it looks
Hmm.
like a big drop. And so, of course, that can land you in bad deliverability like that. And so I just never recommend doing that. It's just better to build your own list from scratch.
And I mean, and so there's a lot of things that people will do to build an email list, whether it's events or sweepstakes or other things. So I'd like to kind of talk about that elephant in the room. So we did this massive thing to build an email list.
Hmm.
Tell me like what the pitfalls are with doing that kind of stuff because I've seen some of those too.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure. A lot of people might sign up for your list just because you're doing that big giveaway, right? Or that they don't really care about the brand. They just care about that giveaway or that sweepstakes or
mhm,
whatever it is you're doing. We recently saw this with an account who
mhm,
kind of rushed into a sweepstakes at one time and it wasn't as productive as they thought. And so we changed the strategy a little bit and now it's working a lot better. But the problem here was specifically that a lot of people were just not really that interested in the brand. And so what we had to do that one time was a specific strategy for warm up where we were making sure before just adding that whole list into the big mix and them starting to get all of the emails that we send. First, making sure how many people in that list were actually interested in the product or the brand, and then bringing those people over. And I think that's something that people forget about from time to time is just doing that warm up is going to save you a lot of headaches in the future because you're watching your deliverability. And so like we were talking in the beginning, it's just so easy to get like 10,000 people, 15,000 people and just start emailing everyone right away. It seems like the logical thing to do. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs understand how conversions rates work, where you get a certain percentage, right? And so when we're talking about email marketing, you'll always get around 30% open rate, right? And so if you have 10,000 people and that's 3,000 people who are opening your email, and then out of that 3,000, you'll get like a 3% or
right.
2% click rate, which are the people who are actually
Mhm,
engaging. So that's 2% out of that 3,000. So that's I'm bad at math, but let's say that's like 20 people, right? And then out
right.
of that 20 people, maybe 3% will shop, right? And so
Right.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners take a look at this and they want bulk, right? Because the bigger the initial number of people you're marketing towards is, the bigger the lower percentages are going to get.
Right. Right.
But then
Exactly.
they kind of lose track of, well, yeah, but you also have to watch your engagement and deliverability because otherwise you're just going to burn through that list so quickly.
Well, and then there's this other thing too. Like one of the things I see a lot of business owners run into, and we saw this with our client, was that they did a sweepstakes, but they didn't get the emails from the sweepstakes for months, many
Yeah.
months. So then you're dealing with stale emails,
Yeah.
right? So, one of the problems I've seen with a lot of people, and I had somebody reach out to me recently and they were like, well, I hadn't emailed my list in 18 months and now my deliverability sucks.
Yeah.
My open rate used to be this and now it's half that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, because you haven't talked to anybody in 2 years.
Yeah. And people forget about your existence just so quickly. So,
Yeah.
they get an email 8 months later and it's like, oh yeah, this company, but they're not
Hmm.
engaged anymore. And so if you have a client who's dealing with a stale list, it's imperative that you do a warm up because you want to get a feel of how people are behaving. And there are many strategies to do warm-ups, and this is where having an actual email strategist comes in handy because with my experience, I am able to look at an account and understand the risk of doing riskier strategies versus how safe the accounts needs to be. So I've had accounts where I've been
Hmm.
like, you know what, let's just email everyone and just get it out of the way, right? And just get that
Right.
percentage of people who actually listened. But that's because I can assess the account and know that the risk is worth it. If you do that with just any account without assessing for risk, you might just burn your list there and then. So with, for example, with this client, when they did that, we did have the approach of, you know what, let's just split the totality of the people and then email small batches. And then
Right.
after emailing the small batches, then we get the engaged people from each batch rather than just doing it as a whole. Because again, when you take a look at it in terms of percentages, that's going to look like a huge fallout versus if you do it in small batches.
Right, exactly. And there's ways to manage the fallout from not engaging a list for however long, versus just blasting the list, which I've been known to do for my own stuff just because I'm lazy, but there are better ways to do things for sure.
For sure. And I mean, again, we assess the risk and we
Hmm.
know how much risk we can take. But if you don't have that experience with email marketing, you might want to convince yourself that it's something that your business can take and maybe it can't.
Right. And that makes absolute sense. And so, let's talk about like best practices when it comes to how often should you be emailing? Because that's another thing that I hear from people. And it doesn't matter what generation they're in, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials, baby boomers. I hear well, email marketing is dead. Oh, they don't want to hear from me very often. How often should a business really be emailing?
It's of course going to depend on the business. Everyone's going to have a
Hmm.
differently engaged audience. I had one client who had a hardware store. His list was so engaged. It's probably one of the most surprising accounts I've ever had the pleasure of managing because it was so engaged. Like you could have emailed them every day and it would have been fine, but that's not
Hmm.
always the case. So my standard is 10 to 12 campaigns a month. And so that leaves you with 2 to 3 campaigns per week, 2 to 3 emails,
Right.
not counting your automations, because of course those are going to be triggered depending on your
Hmm.
shopper's behavior. But yeah, between 10 and 12. Now, that's going to depend on each business, and we always test for it, right? So
Hmm.
when we start out, we start sending campaigns, seeing how the engagement is working. Some companies are going to need more. Some companies are just going to have so much going on and so many messages and such an engaged audience that they're going to need more. It's rare for a company to need less than 10 campaigns a month. It does happen, but most of the times when it does happen, it's more a thing of the company being afraid to message more than it is about the data showing us that we need less messaging. So don't be afraid to message your audience, but definitely do it with a healthy mix of segmentation. And see, that's the key here. A lot of people focus too much on the number of emails going out instead of focusing on how are we going to segment those emails. So not everyone's going to get all the emails, and that's the main thing, right? You want to have 10 campaigns so that maybe you can have
Right.
2 campaigns for X purpose, 2 campaigns for X purpose. And so we generally segment depending on engagement. So a fairly standard practice is 30 days engaged, 60 days engaged, 90 days engaged, which in e-commerce specifically, usually 30 days engaged is your day-to-day audience. They're the people who are shopping, they're the people who are just there, engaged with your audience. 60 days is they might start to get a little bit bored, but they can still be like easily re-engaged. 90 days is they're at the threshold where they're not going to engage with your brand anymore. You can still get them back. And so
Hmm.
you can imagine the strategy for the three of these is completely different. The messaging is completely different. Like we want to capture them where they're at and then offer them a messaging that is of value to them to re-engage. And that's where the trick is. Engaging in segmentation rather than just watching how much you talk to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key, right? Is segmenting it properly and understanding like how often are people engaging? How often are they opening? How often are they doing things? What are they doing? What are they opening? What are they showing interest in? Tagging them, marking them appropriately, and then going from there. So you talked about having an audit. So tell me about this offer that you have, that your download and all of those things for your subscribers and that sort of a thing.
Yeah, so when we get someone who's interested in the services, the first thing we do is this free email audit. And so what we do is we go in, I take a look at segmentation. When was the last time they sent? How have they been sending? Have they been blasting their whole list? How is the list reacting to that? Something that I don't see a lot of people do when they do audits is most email marketing platforms will have like an analytics section where you can see how campaigns
Mhm.
performed, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, one of the most telling things about an account is going in and creating several segments
Right.
that I might delete after. I just want to see how many people fall into that segment, right? So if you have a 10,000 people list and I go in and I do a segment of has placed an order across all time. So I just want to see people who have ever purchased. And then that number is like 20, which it does
Mhm.
happen, then that tells me a lot about what the list is actually doing. Are they actually engaging? Are they actually shopping? Or are they just interested in the messaging? And then that doesn't mean it's wrong. It might just mean, okay, some people might need more educational content rather than shoppable content. And so you can start to see how the people are engaging with the content and the brand, and you can create a strategy based on that for them.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think that that's important is to start segmenting and seeing what people are actually doing and how they're doing it and being really clear about, hey, this is how
Yeah.
they're interested, this is what they're interested in, this is how we segment, this is how we do it.
It,
Um, how would somebody go about getting in touch with you? How do they find you?
They can find me through my website, which is being remodeled right now, but I think it is functional, which is ogbrander.com. Or they can reach out directly to me at my email, which is oguer@ogbrander.com. And they can ask me about the audit. If they go to the website, there's a section where they can sign up for the audit. And I'll be more than happy to help them out, see if there's a strategy that can work for them, or if they require the services of a strategist such as myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Y'all go find Oguer at ogbrander.com. He is absolutely one of the top professionals in this industry, and you do want to work with him. So check him out. And we will see you guys on the flip side. Thank you. Take care. Thanks, Oguer, for being here.